Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. Ready, IT? City Attorney, are you ready?
Yes, sir.
City Clerk?
Yes, sir.
City Manager?
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Hill?
Yes.
Commissioner Boland?
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Everett?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Mervin?
Yes.
Sergeant at Arms. I call this workshop of the City Commission of the City of Pahokee to order at 6:10 p.m. May we please stand for the invocation given by Vice Mayor Mervin, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Father God, in the name of Jesus, God, we want to come and say thank you. Thank you for another day, God, that you have breathed upon us, God, to be here today. God, we ask you, oh God, to be with us, oh God, as we try to conduct city business, oh God. We ask you, oh Father God, to be with us and lead us, oh God, and guide us, oh God, in all truths, oh God. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Mayor Babb,
Present.
Commissioner Boland,
Present.
Commissioner Everett,
Here.
Commissioner Hill,
Present.
Vice Mayor Mervin,
Present.
City Manager,
Here.
City Attorney,
Here.
City Clerk is present.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Thank you, Commissioners. Thank you, staff, and thank each of our citizens for being here today to participate in our workshop of February 25th, 2020. This workshop of the City Commission of the City of Pahokee is being held to discuss our February 25th, 2020 agenda. At this time, I'll turn this portion over to our City Manager to guide us in the discussion of the agenda items that's being presented tonight.
Thank you, Mayor, Commission, citizens, residents. Thanks for coming out tonight. We appreciate your attendance. Mayor, we do have a lengthy agenda. However, it's a good agenda. It does define a lot of the projects that are coming up in the city of Pahokee. You're aware that we have done some good things in Pahokee as far as infrastructure improvements. These projects are continuing on that path, providing some much needed renovations and improvements around the city. And so we sort of jam-packed this agenda because we know that we will there won't be another one until latter parts of March. So that's why you see all of this on here tonight. Because some of these projects are time sensitive, and so we had to move aggressively to ensure that they are going to start timely. That's the resolutions that we have on the agenda. On consent, we have a reissue of a lost check to PRM for our annual workers' comp premium insurance. They lost a check that they received from us last year, and we don't know why it took them so long to indicate that to us. But typically, I don't bring that to the commission. We just reissue the check. But I wanted to be a little bit more transparent and bring that to the commission before we reissue the check due to lost. We have canceled it, and we have prepared it to be resent out again this week. I just wanted to put that on consent agenda. As it pertains to resolutions, we have our solid waste, bulk, and recycling. We have Mack & Sons for the demolition of the old City Hall. We have Resolution 2020-06, and that is the resurfacing of those 6 streets over near Shive Island. I don't know if we have any residents in the audience tonight who live over there, but we've gotten quite a few phone calls from Shive residents that live over there, so I'm sure they're going to be excited when that project starts. 2020-07, that's our interlocal grant agreement to receive the funds for the demolition of the old hospital. As you know, the city has been very successful in obtaining demolition funds over the last 3 years consecutively. So that's just the interlocal agreement accepting those funds with some conditions connected to those funds. And 2020-08 is actually the MOU for going into an agreement to purchase and sell and develop that property once it's demolished. So you have a very good agenda tonight, Mayor. It talks about the future for the city of Pahokee in many areas. There are two other items that are not on here that are being implemented by other partners in the county that also are infrastructure projects for the city of Pahokee. I'm excited to announce those tonight as well. And so it's just, you know, it's through it all, it's good to talk about the future of the city of Pahokee because it does give us the pathway of where we should be going and what we should be focused on for the city of Pahokee. And I think and I believe that these resolutions are indicative of the future for the city of Pahokee. And so they need your support. And as soon as we can get these approved, we can get these projects moving. The notice to proceed letters are already been typed and signed, and they are ready to go for the contractors. Mayor, do you want me to give you those other two projects, Commission, that are not listed? They're not any responsibility of ours except the monitor, but I can speak on them real quick if there are no questions immediately. As you're aware, we are in a partnership with the county for the gymnasium. We spoke about reopening the gymnasium for many, many years. It's been closed, I believe, for about 13, 14 years now. So we're at that stage where on, I think, March 10th, they'll do the final approval for their contractor, and a notice to proceed will be issued for March 11th. The timeline for completion of all the gym renovations, first level, the gymnasium only, I believe it's around September. So that's a little bit more aggressive than the end of the year schedule that they provided before, so that's great to hear. We hope that they can, the contractor can stick to that timeline and finish it up sometime early September and have the community back in that gym, you know, before, you know, October. So that's great. So that project is scheduled, well, the county will issue their notice to proceed on March 11th, as they indicated, and that's their project. We're the benefactors. They'll be monitoring that project along with our building inspectors in our code office as well as that project proceeds over the next several months. So that's about $1 million project with the county. So that's exciting news because, as you know, as I said before, that gym's been closed for quite some time. In addition to that, I'm also excited to announce that in partnership with the Anquan Bolden Foundation, Mr. Bolden will be financing the seating for the football field. He has agreed to a contract with a local contractor, and so that work will begin most likely simultaneously as the gym renovations begin as well, maybe a week before, so you're probably talking next week when that contractor can get started. But thanks to Mr. Anquan Bolden, he'll be providing some seating here at the football field. That's another project that will probably take about they're projected maybe about 45 days. They're building the stadium seating now, and it'll be delivered, and then their crew will come in and begin to construct that on site. The local contractor's responsibility is he has to build a cement slab. And again, Mr. Bolden is financing all of this for the city of Pahokee. And so we're graciously, you know, accepting that philanthropic effort on his part and his organization's part, and we're certainly going to recognize him, you know, publicly for that. And again, that is another tool in our warehouse where we can provide some much needed, you know, recreational activities for the city of Pahokee, you know, collectively. So we're excited, you know, about those two projects as well. So if you talk about the resurfacing that's going to happen, the demolition that's about to happen on North City Hall, the gymnasium project that's about to start as well as the project that's starting at the football field. You're going to have 4 major projects happening in the city of Pahokee over the next several weeks. That is great for the city of Pahokee. So that's where we are today, Mayor.
And I may have missed it, but did you mention Barfield Highway and what's the status of that, when that will go online?
I spoke with the engineer just last week. They were at 100% plans. They had turned the plans over to FDOT. Once FDOT signs off on those plans, the engineer will come back and provide a scope of work for Barfield and a draft bid. So I made a request to try to get this bid out the first or second week of March. Don't know if we'll make the first week of March, maybe the second. Of course, it'll be out for a while and then we'll receive bids. I anticipate maybe in mid-April, if they can get those plans approved from FDOT, and we can get the scope completed. I want to anticipate an April start date, but I'm not quite sure yet, based on FDOT's approval of the engineer's 100% plans and design that they've submitted already. So I have a meeting with the engineer again this week, end of this week, and I'll get a final update, and I'll probably send you an email to the entire commission on where we are. But it should be at 100% plans now, sitting at FDOT for final approval.
What is the status of the city webpage coming back online? We can expect that to occur.
Right. I instructed staff, there's a lot of old things on there that I want to taken off. I instructed staff to go through the entire website with the provider and make those necessary changes. And then subsequently, the provider's host site went down. So we couldn't look at it today because I want to do a final run through checking the site and its operation. Also, the city attorney wants to take a look at it as well. And so once we can get all those little quirks worked out here, we're thinking the next couple of days we can get that site back up and running.
So we're going to address the problem with the accessibility of handicap.
Right. There's still some areas that are not fully ADA, and we're going to have to continue working on the site, but we know we have to release it. So there are certain things, and it has to do a lot with our documents that are city documents, like if someone wants a permit, it's not ADA on that website, so we have to let them know they have to come in and actually pick that up, or we can mail it to them. Reason being, because of that, is a lot of the documents that were on the old website, they were developed in different formats in different years. And so what we're trying to do now is take all of those documents, bring them up to today's standard of software, and make them ADA compliant. So right now, we're just trying to do one document at a time in prospective departments. And so that's one of the hangups right there. But for the most part, we're going to go through the final stages of the website, take a closer look at, how well it works publicly, and then we're going to release it.
Thank you. Any commission have any question of the city manager pertaining to agenda item or any other concerns or questions you need to ask?
I do want to follow up with regards to the website, because it has been down for it's been down a while, a good while. And is there some intentionality? Some guidance being provided, because it has been down quite a while. And can that be, could that be major, a bigger priority to get it up and running and functioning? I understand some of the nuances you just mentioned, but it's been down a considerable amount of time, and I'm just trying to see how serious is, document conversion and all of that. I'm not a tech person.
Not as serious as it was maybe, a month ago when we were, testing the site out in different areas and updating all the information. I've had my audio visual, he can't come up because he's running the show back there, but I had my audio visual department on that, as well as our IT department working with the external vendor that's developing the website. So it's not as complicated now to finish it up as it was 3 months ago, when they were trying to figure out how to get all these documents to work at one time, until they figured out the software just wasn't connecting because the documents were just so old, and there were multiple documents under multiple software years that don't confine with a new website. So we're very close to wrapping it up, and as I said, we're doing a rough run of it this week. So hopefully, by early next week, that site will be up.
I guess just moving forward, I think we just need to be a little bit more, if we can't be accurate with dates, I think we need to put a to be continued or something. It's, because I just don't, the general public to think that we're just throwing dates out there at whim.
Right, and that's why I try not to give a specific date, because I realize that this is, external from us, working on it and developing it, and so we're not the ones actually developing the site. This is a large company that has, numerous accounts with other municipalities, across the nation. So, I try to work within the timeline that they're providing, but even wasn't giving us a specific date on when everything would be ready. But, it's on us to finish it up now as a staff and do a rough draft, do a rough run of it on how it looks to the public before we release it here in another week.
Mr. Mayor? If I may, and it could possibly be that the vendor is taking a while, and especially if they do other municipalities. I'm not familiar with the vendor or anything like that, but there are a lot of lawsuits that have been filed against municipalities dealing with the ADA compliance issues, and there are a few firms now doing that at all over the state of Florida. So a lot of cases have been settled, and they're probably trying to be very careful about releasing it just based on their experience with whatever else they're doing with other governmental entities. But, I'm familiar with some of the lawsuits, and so I asked Mr. Williamson last week if, whenever he gets close to finishing it, if we could take a look at it and look at some of the things that may have been problematic for other cities.
Thank you.
So, and we'll be doing that with the city attorney this week.
Any other questions for the city manager pertaining to agenda items or any other concerns? Hearing none, I would adjourn our workshop, and we will reconvene our regular commission meeting at 6:30. We're going to go ahead and get started, everybody.
Hey, you want to move to the floor, but instead of screwing it?
City Attorney, are you ready?
Yes, sir.
City Clerk,
Yes, sir.
City Manager,
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Hill,
Yes.
Commissioner Boland,
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Everett,
Present.
Vice Mayor Mervin,
Present.
Sergeant at Arms. I call this City Commission of the City of Pahokee, regular commission meeting of Tuesday, February 25th, 2020, to order at 6:34 p.m. May we please stand for the invocation given by Howard Osborne, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Heavenly Father, Lord, I'm asking you, God, to bless this commission meeting tonight. Bless the commissioners, God, to make the right decision. Lord, have mercy upon us all. Bless everybody that come out tonight in the name of Jesus. Amen.
Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Mayor Bab,
Present.
Commissioner Boland,
Somebody play
Yes.
with?
Commissioner Everett,
Yeah.
Commissioner Hill,
All right.
Present.
Vice Mayor Mervin,
Present.
City Manager,
Here.
City Attorney. Here. City Clerk is present.
Find somebody to play with.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Thank you, Commissioners. Thank you, staff. Thank you to you all for being here tonight to participate in our City Commission meeting of Tuesday, February 25th, 2020. We're going to move right along the agenda. Our first item is the deletions, the additions, and approval of the agenda items. City Manager, are there any additions?
My apologies, Mayor. I know you wanted to add the Housing Development Group. I don't see them here tonight. Should we add them tonight because of the lengthy agenda, or do you want to hold off on that?
They requested, we'll add them on. If
Okay,
they're not
yeah,
here, then we'll
that's-
just move on, but yeah.
Okay, but that's the only addition that we have.
Okay.
Where are we adding them?
On the presentation.
Yes. What's, I forgot the name of that group.
Global.
Global,
Glaze Global Business Group.
Glaze, say it again?
Glaze Global Business Group.
Glaze Global Business Group.
Any other addition?
No, Mayor.
I was gonna have it for our next meeting. Could we add just a brief status of the marina update? Did you have one available? Where we are on that?
Sure.
Okay.
And
And I guess we'll put that under
whole business?
old business.
Yep.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor? Mr. Mayor?
Yes, ma'am.
That would go under your future agenda items. On the agenda, it would go under your future agenda items to add it to the next meeting agenda. In other words, that's what you have that section for at the end of your agenda.
I mentioned that fact that I was gonna have it added, but I thought we can get a brief update. So we'll put it under there as a request.
Okay.
For the next commission.
And then how does it work? Like, we stopped the last meeting at 9 o'clock, and then where does that, we're supposed to, according to that ordinance now, we pick it up. Where does that go?
Wherever you left off.
No, I'm saying, where does it go on our agenda tonight?
It would be, it really should be, well, you have your agenda, it looks like they're, no, it would pick up under the ordinance, she's correct. And it should be first, I guess, the first thing that you would do, probably, after your consent agenda.
So, just so I understand, we pick up where we left off, the first thing, like this would now be H1? Is that what you're saying?
It would go under your consent, after your consent agenda. That would be my recommendation. I don't think it addresses
Okay,
that
so like number 2
specifically.
under the consent agenda?
It would go under, no, it's not a part of your consent agenda.
Okay, I'm
It's going to be a
confused.
regular item, and I'm suggesting that it should go under H, where your resolutions are, and wherever you left off would be your first item.
Okay, but then do we go ahead and finish the whole agenda under H?
You would finish everything else that you have time for up to 9 o'clock under H.
Okay, where on
I
H?
think she's just asking, where would we place them? Do they just
Yeah,
go
they-
accordingly to each?
It would go, wherever
Whichever
you left
one.
off is
Okay.
what the ordinance addresses, that you would
Okay.
pick up from. And so what I'm suggesting is you should pick it up from H
H,
under your agenda.
okay.
So where's the marina update going to
So what do we put that as, like leftover, not
Well, I
leftovers?
think these same issues are on your agenda anyway, so it's not.
Okay, but then does it go, I guess my question is, like on the agenda, it says, I guess we were on resolutions last time when we ran out of time. So then do we have public hearing, proclamations, presentation, report of the
Right.
mayor, report, all of that goes
That's what I was saying.
right there too?
Yeah, no, you had done all of your, I think what you should do is you should pick up those items under H, and I think that would comply with your ordinance. You should pick up where you left off under H. You should do all of the things before H, and then you should pick up under H for the order, and that would coincide with what you have here, because the first item would be that same resolution that you were debating.
So you would place all the items under H?
No, I'm suggesting that you do everything before H now, and you
Okay.
pick up at H for
Okay.
that item. These are very short things that you're doing, the minutes and all of that, and then you go under H and pick up under your action items.
I don't have the minutes from the
Okay.
last meeting. The only thing
I
I
was just
thought
trying to get
that
it cleared on what
was
she was
really
asking.
missing was the discussion of the solid waste
Right.
agreement.
And that's where
Right.
you're
That's
picking
what our
up.
major
Right.
debate
Exactly.
and conversation
Right.
was on, and that's included here. So I'm not sure what other items need to be contingent. Now, there is a mayor report, commissioner report, but all of that.
That's after anyway.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, we're gonna do.
Right.
Okay, but then we weren't able to do future agenda items.
We're doing that. We can do-
You're going to do that. You have that on your agenda. You don't have a future agenda item from the last agenda, so you're doing it under this agenda. Future agenda items is still on your agenda for tonight.
Right, but we didn't get to do the one from last meeting.
Right. The item that you're going to pick up will be under the resolution. So I think that what you should do is go forward with your meeting and then pick up with H1, which will be the same item.
So you're saying instead of doing the whole meeting, finishing up the whole meeting from before, we just
You
do the
can't finish up
resolution part?
Right, you can't finish a future agenda item from the last meeting. You're already done with that. There's no way you can
Right,
revisit that.
but wouldn't we go and say if we wanted a future agenda item on from last time, that would have been on this time?
But you.
And then it would get
Right,
added?
you can't add it from the last time. You're in this meeting. So what you're saying, I guess I don't really understand, because the last time, obviously, you didn't get to future agenda items, but you do have a future agenda item on for this agenda. So you can't do the future agenda items now, because you're going to pick up the item that you left off, which would be, I think you should go forward with the meeting, and that would probably address your
Okay.
concerns.
I think I understand. Okay.
So Mayor, we have that addition for Blaze Global Group. I need a motion for that.
We'll do that on the
Presentations.
yeah. Are there any additions? Additions?
No, Mayor.
Thank you, sir. I'll call for a motion at this time to accept the agenda as presented with the addition of Glazed Global Business as a presentation add-on.
Mr. Mayor, if I'm in order, I'd like to offer a motion that we accept the agenda with the necessary corrections.
Second.
It has been moved by Commissioner Everett and properly seconded by Commissioner Hill for the adoption of the agenda item with the addition of Glazed Global Business. Call for questions. Hearing none, are you ready for a vote? Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Commissioner Everett,
Yes.
Commissioner Hill,
Yes.
Commissioner Boland,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Mervin,
Yes.
Mayor Bab.
Yes. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Thank you, Commissioners. Motion passed by unanimous vote. Now we'll move to our citizen comments, public service announcement, all agenda items. 3 minutes for your presentation or comments. Madam Clerk, at this time, do we have any comment card completed?
Yes, sir. The first one is from Mr. Bobby Coven.
Bobby Colvin, 3096 Bacon Point Road. And I'd like to start by thanking the city manager for sending me some information on the decks. I got it this morning. It was very helpful. It was a lot to digest today. I mean, there were a lot of reports. I'm still not totally convinced. I feel like with the deck that was built, we had a choice between marginally good, better, or best, and we did not want to pay the money for the better or best. I still believe that there are issues or will be issues with settling due to significant levels of organic material in the silt, which is below the deck. But time will tell that. I have two main questions from the reports that I received today. I didn't get a certified maximum occupancy, that's talking about the number of people, nor the maximum weight. Also, question, one of the reports that I received today was from Florida Engineering out of Port Charlotte. I've got the question phrase here. Did Florida Engineering out of Port Charlotte engage the services of state-certified geotechnical engineer to reevaluate the finding of nutting engineers who conducted an on-site geotechnical exploration during the summer of 2018 and specifically required deep pile foundation utilizing 12-inch diameter timbers? We paid $7,500 for them to drill those 3 holes down in the ground 40 feet, and they analyzed the soil, which turned out to be gray silt. Some areas of it had 5% organic matter. I'm wondering, and then we went and instead, matter of fact, we paid $7,500 to nutting engineers, and then we paid $3,600 to See Diversified for plans. Instead of using those, we went to Florida Engineering out of Port Charlotte. Did Florida Engineering do any kind of geotesting of the soil? Because that's what caused them to want to put the pilings down with the first engineers. And that's just a question that I really would like to see answered, and some other things too. Like I said, there was a lot to digest. And Mr. City Manager, one of the reasons I didn't go to your office, I like to do things in writing so I have records. And that's the bottom line there. Lastly,
Thank you, sir.
Ordinance 2019-02
Thank you, sir.
is still evil, and 9 o'clock comes soon.
Thank you. I apologize for having to cut you off, but we do have a long agenda tonight, sir.
The next one is from Mr. Sam McKinstry.
I'm gonna go last, please.
We're going to take them in order, Sam. To go now or later.
Fine with me. I'm Sam McKinstry, Cracker Sam. Right here, what I have is a sworn statement from February 20th, about 3 o'clock, case number 2004-0419, Officer DJ Allen, badge number 8197. This is my statement. I, Samuel John McKinstry, was on top of the Pahokee dike filming the raising of the new American flag on the top of the dike, which is federal property. The city does not own it. I was filming in public and tried to ask a city employee, Public Works Director Alvin Johnson, a question. Mr. Johnson got out of the city vehicle he was in and slapped the phone out of my hand, assaulted me. The occurrence was filmed on Facebook Live, witnessed by thousands and dozens that were there. What I would like to know this evening is, what are we going to do about it?
You'll file a police report.
Yes, I did.
That would be taken care of by law enforcement to follow up on that.
What's the city going to do about it?
We don't know the outcome of the investigation or law enforcement finding.
So you're condoning a city employee assaulting a resident?
Man.
It's right here. 10,000 people saw it live.
Mr. Mayor, PVSO is looking into it and will consult with the state attorney's office.
Thank you. You have your answer, Mr. McKenzie. Thank you, sir.
I still got plenty of time.
Have you
No,
made
I
your
haven't.
comments?
I still have a minute one.
All right, time is up, sir.
No, it's not. Legally, I got 3 minutes.
Have you made your final
Would you like-
comments?
No, I haven't. I
Well,
got
continue
52,
speaking then.
51, 50, 49.
That's out of order.
Yeah.
You're not gonna just sit up there for 3 minutes. If you're not finished with your conversation or your comments, you can continue speaking.
Am I legal?
No, you're not, sir. The commission is, and the mayor, through the mayor, is allowed to enforce rules of procedures for orderly,
rules
for
of
order,
procedure,
for,
each
for,
individual
for
get 3
orderly
minutes.
conduct of this meeting. And if the mayor is asking you to sit down because you are,
He works for me.
you are finished, then you must
He works
sit
for
down.
everybody in here. I got 16, 15,
Mayor,
14,
please.
13,
Please,
12,
just,
11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4,
That is
3,
ridiculous. That is-
2, 1. Y'all have a nice night.
The next comment card is from Mr. Mark Miller.
Whoever condones that is really silly.
Oh, that's real funny laughing at somebody.
Who said that?
You out of order, Mr. Sam.
Mark Miller, 190. I'm out of order, Mr. Mayor, Honorable Mayor. Mark Miller, 190 North Lake Avenue. I'd like to speak to the resolution 2019-2 that Commissioner Boland was talking about. She was making reference to the balance of the previous commission meeting, which I believe was the first one in February. Well, before that, we have the balance of the 2nd January, which was never complete. Mr. Mayor, you know that, it didn't get finished. So if they're gonna start with this, wouldn't it make more sense, logical sense?
Mark, he's a talking to Mike.
I'm sorry. Would it not make more sense? Would it not be more, senior moment, I'm sorry. But it'd be a lot easier to understand if you picked up what was left off in January 1st, finished January, then finish February, the previous meeting, then you begin with your resolutions. That's why, like, you wanted to make a reference to something and the city attorney told you you had to do it at the end of the meeting. You couldn't do it in this meeting. Well, we never finished the last 2 meetings. Madam Attorney, what do you do in South Bay? Do you have this resolution down there
At this time,
in South Bay?
address the commission with your comments.
Okay, couldn't ask the attorney, okay. Mr. Mayor, do you know if South Bay, they have the same attorney? Do they have this resolution on their books?
Mark, we're not answering any question. You need
Okay,
to
well, then
make
I'm just
comments,
asking.
And then, after you finish, if we feel it deemed necessary, we make comment on it. But
Okay.
this is not a trial.
But you could, no, I understand that, and I'm not trying to make it that, sir, Honorable Mayor. But will I get an answer at some point?
I don't
in
know.
a couple
You need to
weeks?
make your comments, and then that will be determined. Are you finished with the comments?
To be determined.
Yes, sir.
Please, time.
That's fine.
Are there additional comments, Madam Clerk?
Yes,
Yeah.
sir. The next one is from Ms. Catherine Marvez.
Good evening, Catherine Marvez, 1838 East Main Street, Pahokee, Florida. I think what I want to talk about is the agenda and a couple of items that should be on the agenda. I was kind of shocked to see this agenda packed full tonight, when for the last 6 months, we've had nothing on the agenda, not a single item that was put on there in print. Everything was added. Therefore, no conversations could be had about it because nobody knew what was coming up. And I'm speaking from a citizen's point of view. In addition, every time I look at the agenda, I see old items at the bottom, and there is never anything there. So I want to know, how many old items do we have that have not been brought back to the forefront, that have been let slip, and they've just kind of gone off into the wilderness? On today's agenda, I noticed that there's nothing about the IG report, a 32-page report agreed to, or 34, agreed to by the city, which should have been brought up for a public discussion, which should have been answered by the commissioners, yet it was not. And apparently, it's just gone off into Never Never Land. In that report, there were a lot of things that should be done, a lot of steps that should be taken. It was a testament to poor job performance. Somebody who claims to know everything about what they're doing, and it was found out that indeed, no, they did not. That's not a shame. You know what? When you're in a job, you need help, you don't know the answer, you go find it and you get help. But let me tell you something. When the bricks start to fall down, Mr. Chandler Williamson is going to get a slap on the wrist. And each one of you, if you notice that last page, page 34, the last paragraph, this report in no way relieves the responsibility and the accountability from the city. That is you. So just to be very clear, on this report, and I'm going to be quick because I'm down to 30 seconds, so I'm just going to jump down to Oikos Developers. They've had 2 projects ages ago, farm labor housing. Are you proposing to put farm labor housing at the old hospital? Why are we not keeping this hospital, developing it ourselves, and keeping it as a future consistent income-producing property for the city? You're just giving it away with no potential future for the city other than to put farm labor housing in the middle of the city.
Thank you for your comments.
No, thank you.
Are there any additional comments, Madam Clerk?
Yes, sir. The next one is from Ms. Metra Hughes.
Hello, everyone. I'm Metra Hughes, 1897 Bacon Point Road. And I'm up here inquiring about my Freedom of Information Act letter. I brought it in. Okay, I don't talk loud. Is that better? I'm here looking for an answer from the Freedom of Information Act that I requested some information, as I've done thousands of times with U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, State of Florida, Palm Beach County, many places. And it's regular business. You don't have to go to the attorneys or to the managers. Person who holds the records are supposed to supply them to you upon request. That's why it is a Freedom Act. And I would like to receive the information I requested. And I don't think an attorney would have to look at this and waste our taxpayers' dollars It's just a request, and it's nothing illegal. It's just a request for paper that the city manager, not the city manager, but the clerk holds. And I would definitely like to get a response. Like, we don't have this is not, but I haven't got a response other than it went to the attorney and the city manager. And that's not regular, ever. So, please, Nylene, if you could get the records, I would appreciate it. And it's formal, Mr. Mayor, that I should get them. I've got them thousands of times in 72 hours, 3 days. Thousands. So it's nothing special, honest. Nothing scary. Nothing to get nobody in trouble. It's just requests for records. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
The next one is from Ms. Joanne Culberson.
Joanne Culberson, 1621 East Main Street, Pahokee, Florida. I had, from the last meeting, I had several concerns. So I decided that the next day that I would take them to City Hall and they could get answered, since we're not going to answer anything here. It's been 2 weeks. I've been down there 5 times and I have yet to talk to the city manager. Today, I was down, yesterday I was down there twice. He was in a meeting because I saw the sheriff walk in and one of the guys from the city walk in, and then I saw 3 official guys, a girl and 2 guys walk in that looked official, so I would have told him I was going to Belgrade and I'd be back. I came back at 3:30 and his truck was gone. Today I was down there early. He was at the football field. When I came by, I waited 40 minutes in the office. I went outside to smoke a cigarette. He came in the door, and then I went in, and they said that he said I had to set up a meeting to see him. What about the open door policy? I mean, I'm going to do this every meeting. When I have questions, I'm taking them down to City Hall, and I expect to get a result. You said we have 4 major projects started. What about the dike? We haven't mentioned the dike since December the 3rd, I think, when they officially got turned over to ERH. We missed all that because we don't get to it. If you notice on my thing there, yes, I was up on the dike whenever I felt insulted by a city worker that has 60 charges, assault and everything else against it. And I just think, I just cannot imagine what's going on. I have the pictures of the boards. I'm very careful when I walk out on that dike. I took pictures all along. I also was informed that the city manager told me, said that there would be no pictures taken on the dike. Well, that is not the Pahokees. I mean, I can take pictures on the dike when I want to. And this one is to Benny, because he missed it the last time he wasn't here. How can you justify that we are going to hire Perez when you had the attorney fired for using him for free labor? Do y'all realize that makes the city look stupid?
Thank you for your comments. Thank you, Madam. In addition to comments, card completed, Madam Clerk.
The next one is from Mr. Herbert Crawford.
Yeah. Good evening, Herbert Crawford, 8833 Eldorado Drive, Pahokee.
Last commission meeting, I posed two questions about the status of the picnic area, with opening for the public use, and the gymnasium. I received a report from the county that I guess August 11 is the date slated for the gym to be reopened of 20. But with the picnic area, have we came up with a date? I know we're saying we're waiting on some trash cans and some bleak benches or whatnot, and I guess it's supposed to have been open last week or what have you, so just checking on the status of that.
Yeah, answer that. The date hasn't changed from the last meeting. I said the first week of March. We're still on schedule.
The last card is from Mr. Jeffrey Willis.
Jeffrey Willis, 432 West Canal Street, Belglade. I just came tonight just to kind of let everybody know I'm the new community liaison for Florida Crystal. So me, myself, and Carolina be working very closely in helping bring some awareness to the area, both Belglade, South Bay, and Pahokee. So I look forward to meeting all you guys and being a part and helping out in the city of Pahokee. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Are there any additional comments, Carl?
No, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. And thank the audience and the residents for your comments. Okay, we'll move to our next agenda item. We're going to go back now just briefly. At our last commissioner meeting, we wasn't finished, but this item was dealing with the solid waste contract, which is the first resolution we'll be addressing. So it's my understanding that all of our business with that exception was taken care of. Main business, of course, we had some reports of the mayor, commissioner comments
Are we going
and
to do any
so
of this
forth.
first?
What is that?
Approval of the minutes, consent agenda, that
Okay, yeah. you're
check
right.
and all that, right?
Yeah, I wanted to, okay, you're right.
I'm sorry, I was just,
No.
because I wrote it in there, so
Okay,
I wanted to
great.
make sure I understood right.
We'll move to the approval of the minutes. The first minutes that need to be approved is the February 11, 2020 workshop minutes. I'll take a motion to that effect. I'm looking for a motion, Commissioner.
So, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to offer a motion that we accept minutes, February 11, 2020 workshop minutes.
Second.
It has been moved by Commissioner Everett and properly second by Commissioner Vice Mayor Mervin for the adoption of the February 11, 2020 workshop minutes. Call for question. Hearing none, are you ready for a vote? Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Commissioner Everett,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Mervin,
Yes.
Commissioner Boland,
Yes?
Commissioner Hill,
Yes.
Mayor Bab.
Yes. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Thank you, Commissioners. Motion passed by unanimous vote. Now we'll move to our February 11, 2020 regular scheduled commission meeting minutes.
Mayor, I make a motion to accept February 11, 2020 regular scheduled commission meeting minutes.
Second.
It has been moved by Vice Mayor Mervin and properly second by Commissioner Everett for the adoption of our February 11, 2020 regular scheduled minutes. Call for question. Hearing none, are you
Wait, I just have one. On the minutes, it says pursuant to ordinance 2019-02, the meeting adjourned with the item pending for the next agenda. And then it has all this other stuff. So all this other stuff doesn't pend. I just want to make sure I understand correctly.
I'm not sure what you're asking. Are you, if you all discuss more and you had more time and you discussed other things, I don't know what the other stuff is, but that's the minutes. So
It says
she's,
public hearing,
Okay, if
proclamation,
there's nothing else,
presentation, all that.
There's
It's
nothing
just-
else on the agenda. Everything says none.
Okay,
the
so.
minutes, she's just recording the minutes, and so she's indicating that nothing
Yeah,
else
I
happened.
know. I was just asking because when I saw this, I was like, okay, so none of that carries over.
It says none. Nothing happened. Nothing else happened after that discussion.
Okay.
Any additional questions? Hearing none, are you ready for a vote? Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Vice Mayor Mervin,
Yes.
Commissioner Everett,
Yes.
Commissioner Boland,
Yes?
Commissioner Hill,
Yes.
Mayor Bab.
Yes. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Thank you, Commissioners. Motion passed by unanimous vote. Now we'll move to our consent agenda, the issuance of lost check to PRM for the annual workman compensation premium insurance. This is a consent agenda item. Just need a motion for the adoption if there is no questions.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to offer a motion that we approve reissue of lost check to PRM for annual workers' comp premium insurance.
Second.
It has been moved by Commissioner Everett and properly second by Vice Mayor Mervin for the approval of an issuing of a lost check. Call for questions.
I just have one. Have we issued a new check, and was there any lapse in the policy?
No, we haven't issued it yet. I want to bring it before the commission just to be transparent, and then I'm gonna overnight it to them before Thursday.
Okay, and do we haven't, we didn't have any lapse in the policy, right?
No. Our
Okay.
workers' comp insurance is fine.
Any additional questions? Hearing none, are you ready for a vote? Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Commissioner Everett,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Mervin,
Yes.
Commissioner Bowman,
Yes.
Commissioner Hill,
Yes.
Mayor Bab.
Yes. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Thank you, Commissioners. Motion passed by unanimous vote. Now we'll move to Resolution 2020-04. City Attorney.
Mr. Manager.
Mayor, this is a resolution for approving of the agreement with Big Dog Express for solid waste and recycling collection services for the city of Pahokee. We went back from the last meeting, because this is where we, wrapped up. We were still working on some of the items. We went back and we made those revisions with the proposed contractor, and I think we made all of those revisions. And then, as of yesterday, there was a request to make a change on page 5. Upon expiration of this agreement, all residential containers shall be returned to contractor. I guess they wanted that language a little bit more definitive in who owns the containers at the end of the contract. So I think it'd be also efficient to get Mr. Perez at to the podium as well as we walk through this to make sure we are covering everything that he was recommending from yesterday. So you wanted some cleaner language on the containers in the contract.
That's right, Commissioner, Mayor. Yes, on the on page 5, where it says contractor, it just says upon expiration of this agreement, all residential tenants should be returned. I want that to be more specific. I would like to say all dumpsters, commercial and residential, belong to the contractor, and upon expiration of this agreement, it will be returned to the contractor.
So is that the same, City Attorney? Aren't we saying that now? Or is that more definitive for him?
I don't know what you all discussed, so, I mean.
He wants that language to be more definitive in ownership of the container.
Tell me what paragraph you're in.
Page 5.
What paragraph number? 9?
Yeah.
Paragraph, page 5, paragraph 9? Okay.
All you mentioned in that paragraph is residential. I want for it to be more clear that we're including commercial as well.
Oh, I see. So commercial, currently, Mr. Mayor and Commissioners, currently, commercial is not referenced in there. And so what the contractor is saying is that at the expiration, all of the commercial containers will be returned to the contractor as well. So in that, you all are not providing the commercial containers, and they are. I don't know that you necessarily have a problem with that, because they have to provide the commercial containers
I
anyway.
don't have a problem with that, yeah. I don't have a problem with that, Mayor. It's not a
So
conflict.
do we
for the
need a
city.
motion just to clear up that
To
language?
change it, but I would recommend that you hear everything that they had discussed
Okay.
and then, right, make the
Okay.
changes.
All right, so that was one change to include commercial containers. And I was looking for the area where we were discussing the cashier's check. What page is that?
Page 15.
15, thank you. The previous contractor was providing the containers we were just discussing. The previous provider came before you and said that they would work with the new provider to transfer those containers that are currently on the street. They recently changed their mind about that and wanted to charge the new provider or lease them to the new provider at a very high cost. The new provider here tonight recognizes that he now has to expend a certain dollar amount to replace the containers that he will not be renting from that provider. So in saying that, he wants to change the language of the commitment of the money up front previously, because he has to now expend those dollars to buy those new containers that will not belong to him from the previous provider, which is Waste Management. So now he has to go out and buy those 3 and 4 yarders, not your rollouts from your house, but the dumpsters, because they're not providing him to him as a transition. They actually want to charge him upwards to about $17,000, $18,000 a month just to lease them. So he now wants to go and take finances to buy new containers, and so that increases his commitment in another financial area. I think I'm saying that right, Mr. Perez?
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
How many containers, Mr. Perez?
90.
90?
Yes, ma'am.
So you say that to say what?
Well, we thought we had a deal with the previous contractor. In your meeting last month, they made a statement that they will work with any future contractor and they will lease the container or sell them. And we thought we had a deal on that. We've been talking to them, and then yesterday afternoon, they called and they said, no, they will not sell the containers, and that they wanted $17,000 a month for the containers.
Right.
So I told them, there's no way we can afford $17,000 a month for those commercial containers. So he agreed on leaving the containers on site, me paying him, of course, for 1 month, give me time for me to buy the new containers, which I got an estimate of the new containers for a price of $94,113. It'll take them a couple of weeks to build them. I should have 20. Once I give you the order, I have 20 next Friday and 20 every week after that.
So, Mayor, he wants to move the $30,000 commitment.
Yeah, we'd like to move the whole
Delete it, actually.
the whole paragraph 27. We'd like to delete on page 15, paragraph 27.
So you're gonna build,
That's his changes.
He's still providing a letter of credit?
No, Mayor.
He's saying he wants to delete everything.
The whole paragraph 27.
Wait, you
I can
wanna,
understand the financial commitment.
Right.
say that part again, you wanna do what with the, you wanna change what? The last
Delete
part you just said, just the last part.
27.
Yeah, just, okay. I'm still on the other one.
15.
Okay, here on 27, it says originally a letter credit and a cashier check for $30,000.
That's correct.
So you're proposing to delete both, including the letter credit?
Yes, sir. Yes,
Okay.
Mayor.
Actually, I checked today, and the cashier's checks are only good for 6 months, so that wouldn't have been anything after 6 months anyway, because they're only good for 6 months. So it says in the amount of $30,000, which the city shall cash if the city determines at its sole discretion a contractor has breached its agreement. And my question was going to be, who holds the money? And what do we do after 6 months? So I have a couple of questions. Is it time for questions? Okay.
No, let's
Okay.
take care of this item here.
That's
though.
what I'm
But
asking questions about.
Basically, what he's asking is this section here be totally deleted, the letter credit and the $30,000.
I understand.
He's incurring additional expenses associated with the containers. So our decision tonight to move forward is whether we're in agreement with that. He has about $100,000 additional obligation now in his contract. So we was gonna have a $30,000, basically like a deposit, plus a letter of credit.
Right, so now we have no letter of credit, no deposit, and we didn't get, because that's what I said last time, what if the company at the last minute decides they're not going to transfer these over to us? That's why I was asking if we had that in writing from them.
I spoke with them, Commissioner Board, about that. We're good on that, it sounds.
My question is, are we comfortable with the deletion of this item, removing the letter of credit and the $30,000 cashier check?
No.
He has an additional expense that he wasn't anticipating. This is the only contractor we have at this point. We don't have a bird in the bush or one in the hand. So I think with the additional expense, this would be an equitable trade-off to move forward. That's just my opinion.
I guess my question would be to the city attorney, is, I mean, when we talked about it before, we talked about them putting up a bond, I think it was, or?
No, we actually listened through the
What was
mayor.
the original thing?
Yeah, we actually listened to the tape entirely, and what you all came down to was a letter of credit. Came from the contractor and the
Right, I know
commission.
what we
A
came
letter
down
of
to. What
credit
I'm
and-
asking is, what was
No.
the original thing that we were asking for in the contract?
I don't remember at this point, but I do remember what you ended up with was a letter of credit, and you also talked about a cashier's check, both of those things, and that's what the contractor said he would be willing to do, and you all ended on the note that that's what you all would agree to do, and then we used the highest amount that he proffered, which was $30,000, and a $30,000 cashier's check. And the banks will, it depends, you can have a conversation with the banks. They will honor them if you
But the
work
contract's
that.
for 7 years, they wouldn't honor it for 7
No,
years.
but you could require it every year as you renew the contract, and in agreement with the bank. So those are things that you can do with the bank. But in any event,
Would
I
it be
guess what.
held like in escrow? Would that, something like that be held in an escrow account?
No, the city would hold you're talking about the cashier's check,
Yeah.
correct? Yeah, the city would hold it, and if there was a default, then they would present it to the bank.
Just like in a file someplace?
It could be a safe deposit box. I don't know where the city keeps its valuable
know either.
items. But in any event, it doesn't sound like that's on the table at this point. The contractor is saying that he wants to delete the entire paragraph in order to buy the necessary cans to service the city.
And would that be your recommendation to do that?
I don't have a recommendation. I can tell
That's
you,
what we have it
it's
for.
no, you don't, not to give my opinion about things that are not legal.
Okay.
So
Then-
my thought is that, it would be legal, and it would be allowable by the contract, and then your manager can give you his recommendation as to whether he thinks it's advisable for the city. I don't know what your budget is for it, and I don't know, you know, there are things I don't know, so I'm not going to step out of my lane. My lane is legal. That's what I'm paid for.
City Manager, we'll put that responsibility on you. Do you feel this is an option for us to delete that particular paragraph in the contract?
Well, at first review of it, it did loan some concern, based on that we already gone with a new contractor, and because we were waste management for several years. So I had to kind of look at the pros and cons like we're doing up here tonight. You know, we don't, as you say, you know, have any additional options here as we close in at the end of February.
And we couldn't extend this, I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but I guess at that point I have a question. We couldn't extend with waste management another month, go back out for RFP?
We've extended them 2 months and you went up $60,000. So we're not at that fiscal ability to extend any longer. I would love to do that, to get some of these things worked out, but I think it's an equal trade-off because he's accepting now a $100,000 debt coming into the deal to buy more containers, and that's significant for a new provider to be able to do with a new agreement up front. So I'm along with the mayor that it's an equal trade-off that he's investing $100,000 in new containers for the city of Pahokee just to start trash pickup in the city of Pahokee. It's you know, I feel that, you know, looking at his resume, you know, looking at the city of Tampa, city of Miami, and the two other cities that he's hauling for.
Please, City Manager, just 1 second. Please, if you have to talk and you have conversation, please step out the door. We're trying to take care of some city business, and we need to move forward. You're a distraction when you talk. I know it's probably important, but please step out the door.
Thank you. Upwards of $3 million in contracts with the city of Tampa and the trust in delivery of services there, you know, kind of gave me a little bit more ease in having this conversation and supporting taking this out of the contract for the city of Pahokee. It's not ideal, but we realize that we have to have a trade-off here because this is a significant investment that he's pouring in up front for the city of Pahokee. $100,000 is a lot of money for just some metal containers, but it's needed, it's required. And as you heard from Mr. Perez, Waste Management doesn't want a deal, doesn't want that seamless transition to occur, at least not without a financial commitment from him on a monthly basis. So he feels this is the best deal that he could make that's fiscally responsible for his organization and also gives us the services that we need.
And did they put in writing, Waste Management, that we're going to get all the residential containers?
No, they didn't put that in writing. They had a discussion with Mr. Perez about the
Yeah,
residential
but I mean, they just
containers.
changed their mind. Did you get it in writing, Mr. Perez?
No, I didn't, but I got an email, not exactly, but I got an email on one of the guys from West Management. We're good on that. We got with that. All he wants is $17,000 a month for the commercial containers. The residential containers, it will cost them more to remove than what they're worth.
Mr. City Manager, what's our recourse in this contract, or maybe legal needs to answer this. What's our recourse in this contract if something goes wrong with this? If we have no deposit, we have no letter of credit, we have nothing, what's our recourse?
As far as,
Yeah, your contract does not address it. That would have been your recourse.
So we have none.
You would look for another provider and hope you can get something for about the same or something within your budget.
Let me remind my colleagues and even the audience, Mr. Perez was gracious enough to reconsider this contract at our last commission meeting. He got frustrated and was really ready to walk out the door with this and say, you know, good luck and finding yourself a new provider. I'm not saying it's impossible, but the chances are, and the longer we wait, the more costly this is gonna cost the city. I think this agreement what we have, although we don't have the security of a letter of interest or deposit, even if Mr. Perez walk away, we're not gonna be in a position where he owed us anything or we went into enormous debt. We just gonna be in a bind of a problem and trying to find a new provider. And we had some difficulty attracting providers for this contract. He stepped to the plate. It's saving this city a substantial amount of money. So unless there are some other providers out there that we can actually seek, I'm not sure what all the major question is. I'm not sure how we help the city position by being hardlining on this particular contract. Now, there may be some things in there that we want to do to best that we can protect the city, but, you know, I'm just hoping that we can get this done and get it done that will be in a workable agreement for both parties.
I guess my question would be, could we still get the letter of credit?
No.
Because that doesn't really cost you anything, does it?
You'll see it does.
It does?
Yes, Mayor. Commissioner Paula, it does.
Well, Mr. Mayor?
Yes, ma'am.
The letter of credit is just the interest on it, which should be not very much. It should be somewhat minimal. So the letter of credit is not like a performance bond. It's just the interest on the letters. That's it.
Well, the letter of credit based on the contract, that goes based on the total amount of the contract itself. Now, a $20,000 letter of credit does not bind this contract. You need to get a letter of credit that binds this contract like a bond, and that goes based on the total amount of the contract.
Well, how are we going to accept 30
Well,
before then?
Well, we could.
I'm confused.
We could write it
Hmm.
like that if that's what he was intending, but I don't think that was, but in any event, he's not agreeable to it, so I
Yeah.
guess that's the issue.
Mayor, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I need those two items removed. I cannot, I mean, I want to spend $97,000 that was not expected on it. This happened yesterday to a call that I got from Waste Management, and they're going to give me 30 days. After 30 days, they'll take those containers out. So I'm going to spend $94,000, $160.
I'll try to move this forward. Is it consensus? We're going to vote on all of these changes at one, but is it the consensus that we're in agreement to have this item removed? Are there any objection to removing it?
I object.
Okay, we have one objection.
I have questions as well. I I'm okay with, Mr. Perez, it's just, removing this is almost like just, is it any other way that we can put some type of stability for the city? I get it, I know what he's saying, but even with the letter of credit, is there anything else or any other options, attorney, that we can, probe on, or?
It doesn't sound like the contract is agreeable to that.
That's not what she's asking. She's asking, is there any other way to protect the
Any
city?
other options?
Not that I'm aware of.
Mr. Perez, Mayor,
Yes, Mayor.
would you object to us coming back and adding this stipulation at a later date?
No, I
30,000?
don't want to come back later. We got.
Yeah, a year later?
I said, I mean, we've been talking, going back and forth now for 2-3 months now, so it's up to the city, whatever they want to do, but I don't want to come back. Like I said, this has been going back and forth for a couple of months, so.
And just for clarity, how is the city of Tampa treating your award as far
The
as?
city of Tampa, we just got a contract last week with Hillsborough County at $3.1 million, no bond. Just signed the contract last week. We started work this past Monday. That's Hillsborough County. City of Tampa, I think the city of Tampa contracts, I think it's at $2 million. No bond.
We're not talking about a bond.
But, so,
City Manager, I think it's in agreement, at least consensus, that the majority of the commission under these circumstances would agree that this item can be eliminated. I don't think it's gonna put the city in that much of financial bind to remove this. We'll vote on all the changes, but right now, we're gonna move forward, because I think we have a majority to move forward on this. What are the other changes?
I think that was it.
That was it.
That was it.
Mayor, that was it.
Okay.
So in summary, Mr. Mayor, the changes would be, in a motion, would be accepting the contract with the exception of the change that was indicated for paragraph 8, page 5, adding language to the very last sentence, which would read, upon expiration of this agreement, all residential containers and commercial containers shall be returned to contractor, and the deletion of paragraph 27.
So my
So we-
question is basically, at this point, if we're not comfortable with it, it's no one else, well, obviously, no one else did any bidding, for one. Two, I understand his frustration, I get that. 3, where does it, even with the negotiating of coming back, so you're not coming back? That's what you're saying?
Yes, Commissioner.
You want this done tonight, and you want all of this removed,
Well,
so,
this is the problem we have. We stand this for
Okay.
another week or two. I need to order those containers.
okay.
I need to order those containers, which I place order tomorrow, that will have the first 20 the following Friday. We're only gonna have 30 days with Waste Management leave the containers on site. So if we were to postpone this for another 2, 3 weeks, whatever it is, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to negotiate with Waste Management to leave the container for 2 months now instead of 1 month.
Okay.
With the changes, have you read the resolution into the record? We need to push it unless we're gonna have no garbage, no trash pickup. We don't have a choice. This is
I
important.
am ready.
I appreciate that. Thank you, ma'am. You out of order, ma'am. You disrupting this.
Have her move out. Have her move out. Take her out. sir.
Deputies, could you remove
Take out,
our,
sir.
thank you.
When you're ready.
Yes, ma'am.
A resolution of the City Commission of the City of Pahokee, Florida, approving an agreement between Big Dog Express of South Florida, Inc. and the City of Pahokee for solid waste and recycling collection services, providing for adoption of representations, providing for an effective date.
Thank you, City Attorney. City Commissioners, having had Resolution 2020-04 properly read into the minutes, what's your pleasure?
Mayor, I make the motion to accept Resolution 2020-04 with the changes adding commercial, residential and commercial, and deleting paragraph 27.
Second.
It has been moved by Vice Mayor Mervin and properly second by Commissioner Everett for the adoption of Resolution 2020-04 with those changes. Call for question. Hearing none, are you ready for a vote? Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Vice Mayor Mervin?
Yes.
Commissioner Everett?
Yes.
Commissioner Boland?
No.
Commissioner Hill?
I'm not comfortable, but yes.
Mayor Bab?
Yes. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Thank you, Commissioners. Motion passes by a majority of 4-1 vote. Now we'll move to Resolution.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you, sir. Now we'll move to Resolution 2020-05.
A resolution of the City Commission of the City of Pahokee, Florida, approving an agreement between Mack and Son LLC and the City of Pahokee for demolition of the old City Hall and the City of Pahokee for demolition of the old City Hall building, providing for adoption of representations, providing for an effective date.
Thank you, Madam City Attorney. City Manager, quick, brief explanation.
Well, This is the demolition for the old City Hall. It's time for it to come down. It's been there for quite some time, vacant and abandoned, well, not abandoned, but, you know, boarded up. As you can recall, about 9 years ago, 10 years ago, you suffered severe damage to this building, and subsequently the staff was moved out into portables, I believe, and then eventually you purchased a house that was renovated into the City Hall, and this building was left vacant. Of course, it occupied the Pahokee Police Force at one time as well. So that's the building attached in the back. And so understanding the plight of where we want to go in the city of Pahokee, that's why we demolished the old water plant across the street, understanding that we wanted to demolish also the old City Hall for economic development on this same property. It's all connected together as one big property. We've been successful in securing demolition dollars over the years, and this was our second award from Solid Waste Authority in 2019, and so no, late 2018. And so this resolution and this award to Mack & Sons provides us to move forward with the demolition effective starting probably in about 3 days. They'll get a notice of proceed tonight from me, and then we'll start preparing that site for demolition. It is with hope that when we complete that demolition, that the investors that have shown, we've had multiple interests in their entire site for development, that this will create more excitement for that particular area of the city, for the city of Pahokee, and also some of our private landowners that are connected to this area as well. So you have a schedule also connected to this contract and resolution explaining the timeline. We are on a critical timeline because Solid Waste Authority has given us some limited time to complete this project because it's been awarded for over a year. So we'll have an aggressive startup by this company and hopefully a clearing of this property over the next 30 to 45 days.
Thank you, City Manager.
I'm sorry, that award was for, I think, $345,000, I believe, when we was awarded the money for the demolition.
Thank you. City Commission looking for a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to offer a motion that we accept Resolution 2020-05 for approval.
Second.
It has been moved by Commissioner Everett and properly second by Vice Mayor Mervin for the adoption of Resolution 2020-05. Call for question.
I have a couple. Under Article 4, where it says contract price, I'm sorry, you said we were awarded $345 and the contract price is $267,672, correct? Okay. But above that, it says the cost or credit to the owner from a change order shall be determined by mutual agreement of the parties, or in the event of the, and it doesn't say parties, but it should, cannot so agree, shall be derived by deducting from the contract price the contractor's actual cost. Does that mean that this can change? And if
Yes.
so, what changes it?
When they get on site and really get into the guts of this contract, if there are more issues that they're going to encounter, that allows them to come back and do change orders. And because of this bid, it allows them to come back and do change orders if they encounter more issues that will increase their cost for the contract itself.
Are there a cap on the increase amount that they may come back and request, say like 10%? They can't
No,
exceed that amount?
there's no cap.
Yeah, it
Solid Waste
says right here,
Authority wants-
contract price, no more than 10% for the cost of the contractor's labor and material equipment, plus contractor's overhead. Isn't that a cap?
No, that's not a cap. You have $345,000 from Solid Waste Authority. They don't want their money back. So that doesn't mean we're going to spend $345,000, but they don't want their money back. They want you to expend the amount of the cost of that contract. Now, they bidded on this contract, what they thought would be the accurate amount for the project, but they probably most likely will encounter some issues moving forward. That's on every project, on every contract that we have dealt with. That 10% explains really the overall cost of what they bidded on, but it doesn't go to the fact of we have $345 to expend if they encounter any type of issues. That's what the 10% means.
I'm confused. I mean, that didn't make any sense to me, and maybe I'm just not getting it. City Attorney, could you give me some clarification, please?
No, you read it correctly, and if there's a modification, there can be, in the scope of work, like an environmental issue or something that was unexpected, then you can, not just the 10%, but also the cost of the contractor's labor, materials, equipment, if any, plus the contractor's overhead. So it could very well go up to that amount. It may or may not, but this is, you know, so it won't be just be 10%. It will be 10% plus whatever in the event there's a change.
Okay.
And it's probably likely that may be, given the type of facility.
That's what he's
it
saying.
is.
So what happens if it goes above the 345 that we have?
We have 345.
That's the contract is for, the contract, I'm assuming that will come back to you all. I don't think that would be the case, but if it is, that would not be something that the manager could agree upon on his own. He would need to come back because it would not be budgeted for.
And the contractor is aware of what our budget is for this project, so they have to work within the means of that entire budget. And that includes if they come back with change orders, they have to work within that 345 and no more. They understand that they have to get the job done at that limit.
Okay, and then under Article 12, under insurance, it just says insurance with limits not less than those specified in the contract, but I didn't see any specifications. Or maybe I just didn't read them correctly, I don't know.
Most likely, it's a part of the bid document, right, which will be attached. So it was provided for in the bid document.
Okay, and then under this, I think it's page 14, on this little print stuff, on paragraph 3.7, it says, existing water wells must be closed using the full grout system as required by, and then there's nothing.
I don't see that.
It's under the Exhibit A.
No, that's probably a typo, but for clarity, when we demolished the old water plant across the street, that was done at that time by by Palm Beach County Water Department. All those systems were cut off in anticipation for demolition for both sites.
Okay, but
It's
shouldn't
just
it
a
have
line
something
It's
there?
just a line on the page, as required by the city.
That should probably
Okay.
read as required.
And then
by the
below
city.
that, 3.8, designated building structures are to be completely demolished and the lot completely, and again, it's blank.
Yeah, it looks like it's something that ran off the page, completely demolished.
Okay. And then, I understand there's a generator and a panel that runs the generator and stuff like that still there?
Yes.
Are we getting all that back?
Well, it belongs to us. It's not going anywhere.
Okay, so we're going to take it out, or they're going to take it out?
No, we're just going to move it probably to another location closer to the old fire station because that's going to remain. And it'll probably be protected and designated not to be demolished or removed. But we'll have to figure out how to rewire all of that because it's a very old system. It has fuses, I believe, that it operates by. So we'll have to figure that part out with our electrician for doing hurricane storms.
Okay, and then in paragraph 3.12, where it says the scope of the project is to demolish the abandoned old City Hall complex building to a depth of 4 below ground surface and then restore the site to level. 4 what?
4 feet.
It doesn't say that, that's what I'm asking.
I think that's what the quotation is intended to
Yeah.
mean, 4 feet in diameter.
Where were you just
That's all the
reading?
questions I have.
Where were you just reading?
On these, where it says like scope of services and all that,
Yeah, what page?
it said 18 of 29, no, see, I think I was on 14.
Any additional questions?
14 to 29.
Hearing none, are you ready for a vote?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to offer a motion that we accept Resolution 2020-06 for our approval tonight.
Second.
No, we had a motion
We
already.
had a motion, Mayor.
No, we haven't. Yeah, okay, call the question, we did that.
Okay, I have one more question. Do we have a bond or anything like that that comes with this?
This is the demolition, it's a tear down. And
Okay,
so what
and they
comes
don't
with
do
that
that
is-
on those?
No, not typically, no, not on
Okay.
demolitions. But they do have insurance and liability to protect and indemnify the city as well.
Okay.
Hearing no additional questions, are you ready for a vote? Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Commissioner Everett,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Mervin,
Yes.
Commissioner Boland,
Yes.
Commissioner Hill,
Yes.
Mayor Bab.
Yes, thank you, Madam Clerk, thank you, Commissioners. Resolution 2020-06 passes by unanimous vote. Now we'll move to Resolution 2020-07, City Attorney.
No. Mayor, that was 2005.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry. Got Ms.
And now you,
2020-06.
Right there.
now you're on 06.
We'll move to, let me repeat that. The Resolution 2020-05 passes by unanimous vote. Now we'll move to Resolution 2020-06, City Attorney.
A resolution of the City Commission of the City of Pahokee, Florida, approving the award of the Pahokee Roadways resurfacing contract Phase 3, attached hereto as Exhibit A, in the amount of $197,571.75 to C.W. Roberts Contracting, Inc., authorizing the city manager to enter into and execute the same, providing for adoption of representations, providing for an effective date.
City Manager, brief explanation.
Thank you, Mayor. This project is for resurfacing of 6 streets in the Shive Island area. You have Custard Court, you have Shive Drive, you have Apple Avenue, you have Seminole Court, you have Pahokee Circle, which is on the other side of South Lake, and you have, West 5th Street, which is on the other side of South Lake. So you have 6 streets that are going to be resurfaced over the next 45 to 60 days here in the city of Pahokee. This is Phase 3 of the glazed resurfacing allocation from the state of Florida. Several years ago, Senator Abruzzo and some other representatives, when they were elected in state office, took it upon themselves to push forward the glazed resurfacing allocations. It was for about 10 years. It sunsets here in another 3 years, I believe. And we have a Phase 4 coming as well. So this is Phase 3 for the city of Pahokee under this allocation from the state of Florida.
Being that this is Phase 3, what do we have in mind for Phase 4?
The streets.
But what street?
I believe one of those is MLK, some of the adjoining streets to Anona Drive in that area, and some of those communities connected to Anona Drive. And over where Church of God is, that street, I think is that 3rd Street?
3rd Street.
3rd Street, Begonia Drive, I think Carissa is part of that Phase 4 as well.
And when we were in conversations about glazed resurfacing, I know decisions were made to put focus on Barfield, and there was an explanation given concerning that. But what about the follow-up conversations about McClure, when you have Palm Train, you have school buses that ride up and down that road?
Commissioner, when we were at Palm Beach County Days, we had an opportunity to visit the Florida Department of Transportation, their local regional director, and their chief of staff. And we're committed, and they're committed to ensuring that we receive STOP money for McClure Road in phases. It was predicated on getting Phase 3 started because we know we're behind schedule on this Phase 3. We had a great conversation there with FDOT during Palm Beach County Days. They committed to McClure Road, ensuring that we got the funds required to address McClure Road. So we're hopeful that when that application is put forth, which is due 2nd week of March, that will be approved for about $1.5 million for McClure Road.
Yeah, I certainly would hope so, because I do ride that road, got grandparents that live back there, and it's almost now just a one lane road.
Right.
And we've done a lot of patching, to the point that, it's, some parts you're doing that to gravel. So that road definitely needs some attention, because we have children on school buses, again, Palm Tran, and, it's just in a very bad fix.
Right.
And it definitely needs
and one of the things that,
attention.
I'm sorry, sir. My apologies for cutting you off. One of the things that this commission is going to have to take a look at moving forward is when this road hopefully is financed and the project starts and you're nearing completion somewhere in there, you're gonna have to make a decision about agriculture, use of this particular area. You're gonna allow it to continue to be a agricultural and truck route into the tree farm areas, the sugarcane areas, and all the other farmers that utilize those. You're gonna have to make a decision whether you wanna reroute them and push them over to Wilder Road, or I think it's section 22 coming out on State coming out on Old Belgrade Road going to Belglade. You're gonna have to make a decision if you wanna continue that route for those types of mechanical vehicles and farm equipment, because if you don't, we'll be back at the same conversation here in about 10 to 15 years, probably less than that, because and we love our farmers, we support agriculture here 100%, but the reality is, when this road does get fixed, and it will get fixed, you're gonna have to make a decision on what type of traffic you want in the residential areas.
We're talking about McClure right now,
Talking
right?
about McClure.
Okay, let's
Right.
focus back
So,
on this
sorry.
resolution.
So this, yeah, sorry.
Okay. City Commissioners.
I have one quick question. I know that they're going to redo for the old road to Belglade, and there's a meeting on that on the 27th. But it says maintenance of traffic plans are developed and based on that. Are they taking into effect what's going to happen on 441? I mean, when they have this, I don't know if this is going to affect any of that, but.
It won't, Commissioner Bowman.
Okay.
Most of these streets are confined to Shive Island.
Yeah,
and they're
I
off
rode
the
down in
state
there
facility.
today, and they definitely need it, yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it won't affect that state project. No,
Okay.
ma'am.
City Commissioners, having had Resolution 2020-06 properly read into the minutes and had a brief explanation, what's your pleasure?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to offer a motion that we accept Resolution 2020-06 for our approval.
Second.
It has been moved by Commissioner Everett and properly second by Commissioner Hill for the adoption of Resolution 2020-06. Call for questions. Hearing none, are you ready for a vote? Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Commissioner Everett,
Yes.
Commissioner Hill,
Yes.
Commissioner Boland,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Mervin,
Yes.
Mayor Bab.
Yes, thank you, Madam Clerk. Thank you, Commissioners. Resolution 2020-06 passes by unanimous vote. Now we'll move to Resolution 2020-07, City Attorney.
A resolution of the City Commission of the City of Pahokee, Florida, approving the interlocal grant agreement by and between Palm Beach County, attached here to is Exhibit A, authorizing and directing the mayor to execute the same, providing for adoption of representations, providing for an effective date.
Thank you, City Attorney. City Manager, brief explanation.
Thank you, Mayor. This is accepting, one, the award for $300,000 from Solid Waste Authority through their blighted grant application. As you know, we've been very successful in obtaining demolition dollars consecutively for 3 years. It has allowed us to do a lot of demolition work here in the city of Pahokee. This award is no different. It's for the old hospital, as you are aware, and it provides the opportunity to address an eyesore that's been here in the city of Pahokee for quite some time and boarded up. It's an eyesore in the city of Pahokee. It's some safety issues. It's a lot of trespass issues that are occurring. We do have, an investor, a developer that is very interested in developing of this property once it's demolished by the city of Pahokee. That was his only prerequisite, is we can demolish the building. He would look to build housing here for the city of Pahokee. So on page 3, the only change that the city and the county and Solid Waste Authority agreed to make is on page 3, number 7, under funding. Item A, I should call it item A. Upon City Commission's award of a contract for the completion of the project and approval of an agreement for the development of property as affordable housing project for rural farm workers. Right there, we wanted to delete project for rural farm workers, and we wanted to rewrite that for it to say affordable workforce housing. So they agreed to that change for affordable workforce housing.
But,
Can I ask a question?
yeah, I got some questions.
Why was it proposed as rural farm workers? Because that,
Well,
there's a kind of,
when you're looking at USDA funding and how they do a lot of their projects, it's under the USDA and it comes under agriculture, a lot of their projects. I'm assuming that's why Solid Waste Authority has that language there based on this developer's intent of what he wants to do. But we thought a more, we thought a better sentencing there would be affordable workforce housing versus just rural farm workers.
and can,
If I could, Commissioner, just interrupt you, let's propose a motion in a second, and I'll call for questions. That would be the
Okay.
proper procedure.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to offer a motion that we accept Resolution 2020-07 for consideration.
Second.
It has been moved by Commissioner Everett and properly second by Vice Mayor Mervin for the adoption of Resolution 2020-07. Call for question, Commissioner Everett.
Okay, yeah, we were talking about the rural farm workers housing versus workforce housing. Okay, yeah. So are we gonna have a opportunity to possibly have this person come and show us, once we get to that process, show us what is he proposing, considering?
Yes.
Because when we talk about rural farm worker housing, that carries a connotative meaning that.
Right now, this is the resolution for the interlocal agreement accepting the money for demolition.
I understand.
That next conversation we're about to have is more specifically to the question you're about to ask. Okay? But again, the Solid Waste Authority and the city decided that, it would be amenable to change it to affordable workforce housing and remove the rural farm worker title.
Okay, I have a question because having read it all, the option that you have here for this next part of this, where we give them an option on this building. So in other words, we're going to tear it down, give them an option, is what you're proposing here. And their option says that they're going for 514, 516, and 538 programs. Those are all rural farm worker housing programs. So are they going to go for a different kind of financing?
No, we're just talking about how Solid Waste Authority
Yeah,
titled
but
their
if we tear it
interlocal
down
agreement.
and then they go after this other, they're going after this other financing. These two
Again.
things don't match up.
Again, the Solid Waste Authority, when we had that conversation, they didn't see it as a conflict as far as making this language change, and that's why they agreed to it. So you're talking about the Solid Waste Authority, who's provided you the $300,000, didn't see this as a conflict for this interlocal agreement to accept the $300,000.
I make a motion that we table this and that we go out for a feasibility study on this building because the city now owns 66,000 square foot of space that we will never own again. And let's see what the highest and best use is for this property before we start tearing it down and hauling it away.
One of the things I will say respectfully to my colleagues, this building has not just surfaced. I mean, this building has been here for a number of years. And I understand I'm not going to say all of a sudden, but just recently, it has become very near and dear to a group of persons within our community. But we've had this building in our community, and we have exhausted several options to turn it into some living assisted facility use. It's been a lot of ideas been tossed around, but we have not had at this point, this juncture, anything that stuck.
But if we tear it down,
Even after tabling it. I mean,
Even-
we've tabled a couple of times. We've gone back to the drawing board. We've switched hands, and yet it's still there, and we're still having conversations about the same building, and it just hasn't surfaced. I remember a little boy, people would go to churches campaigning, talking about they were going to open the hospital back up, and it's still there, not being used. Different commissions have sat up here, and nothing has been done. So,
I'm no engineer or no construction guru, but I know that this building, there's a 99.9% chance it can't be rehabbed. We got demolition money on the table, waiting on our approval, and we enter into a debate whether we need to tear it down or
It's a
not.
motion to tear it down.
I don't think it's responsible of us not to look at every option. We've only owned this building for a little while. Yes, it's been there for 10 years, but we only have owned it for a short amount of time. And we have never, I repeat, never advertised this thing correctly to try to get somebody to come in here and do anything.
It's more like 25 years, Commissioner, it's not 10.
We didn't, it doesn't matter. We didn't own it. We didn't have control of it.
We have a motion on the floor by Commissioner Bolden to table this. Do we have a second?
yeah, your previous question. You have your previous question to accept or deny. And
Define
once
it.
we deal with the previous question, then we can possibly
You do have to
entertain
do,
something.
I'm
You
sorry,
got to deal
Mr.
with the
Mayor.
previous.
No, you do have to deal with the table first.
Oh,
You have to, you do have to deal with the table first, and if there's no second, then it goes on back to the,
Do we have a second? Hearing none, motion dies by a lack of a second. And we'll move to the original motion for the adoption of this resolution. Call for any additional questions. Hearing none, are you ready for a vote? Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Commissioner Everett,
Yes?
Vice Mayor Mervin,
Yes.
Commissioner Bolden,
No.
Commissioner Hill,
Yes.
Mayor Bab.
Yes, thank you, Madam Clerk. Thank you, Commissioners. Resolution passes by a majority for one vote. Now we'll move to our final resolution. That's Resolution 2020-08. City Attorney.
Excuse me, but that other resolution, it says whereas the city of Opelika.
we caught it. Yeah, we're going to make the change.
Okay.
Thank you. The next resolution, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Pahokee, Florida, authorizing and directing the city manager to execute the option to purchase real estate attached hereto as Exhibit A by and between the City of Pahokee, Florida and Orkios Development Corporation, providing for adoption of representations, providing for an effective date.
Thank you, Madam City Attorney. City Manager, could you give us a brief explanation?
Well, Mayor, when you successfully demolished the old hospital after 30 years of vacancy, you have a developer that now wants to come in and develop on this particular property and purchase the property for $200,000 once that is completed. This resolution provides to your attention an agreement that spells out the timeline and the cost for this particular property on Barfield Highway at 200 South Barfield Highway. We have some representatives here that represent that developer if they want to speak. If not, we can continue moving forward with this particular offer from this developer.
Thank you, City Manager, City Commissioners. Having had Resolution 2020-08 properly read into the minutes and properly explained, what's your pleasure?
Mr. Mayor, I would like to offer a motion, we accept Resolution 2020-08. Also, keeping in mind the typographical error brought to our attention by Commissioner Boland, which reads City of Opelika. Make sure it reads City of Pahokee for our consideration.
I'll second.
It has been moved by Commissioner Everett and properly seconded by Vice Mayor Mervin for the adoption of Resolution 2020-08. Call for questions.
I have some.
And Mr. Mayor, that's not this item, Commissioner.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. That was in a
No,
whereas,
I don't
it was
know
in a
what she
whereas
said.
clause on the last
Right,
item.
yeah.
It's not
Okay.
this item.
All right, thank
We've
you.
already
All
made the change.
Okay, thank you.
On this option to purchase real estate, I don't know, the paragraphs aren't numbered, so on the first page, second paragraph, it says seller hereby grants unto buyer for a period of 6 months from the above date. What's the date? And then it says, to thereupon purchase same as herein below, provided on or before, and that's blank. So what dates are we working with here?
It's effective date of today. If you agree to this, that date will go on this document.
Okay, and they're going to purchase same provided on or before what? If you leave it blank, it goes on forever.
Well, no, normally it's the date of execution, so, that's for it was a date we didn't have, but generally speaking would be the date of execution.
Okay, but the last line in that paragraph is what I'm asking about now.
Provided on before the date of, that date that you sign it.
That will be today.
Shouldn't it have,
Well, if you sign it tomorrow, the clerk's gonna fill in the date that it was executed, so.
okay, and then it says in the next paragraph down that the option can be extended for an additional 3 months by written notice to sellers to extend in the event of delays of project funding. Sounds to me like we're going to have a project funding delay because this option says they're going for 514, 516, and 538 USDA, which are farm worker housing loans.
What they explain, and I don't know if the property attorney is here, I was told the person would be here tonight. I don't know who she is, but is she here? No. Okay, so maybe they can come up and explain. We were told that it's typical that there is somewhat of a delay because there's paperwork that's required, and that may be something that person can address. If the mayor will receive her.
May I address?
Yes. Please.
Good evening, Commissioners. It's an honor to be here in front of you this evening. I am not the representative that is supposed to be here this evening to speak on this matter. However, I would attempt to answer a question for you. And Commissioner Boland, if you can repeat your question.
Yes, ma'am. I was asking, it says here that they're going to, if there's a problem with project funding, then they're going to extend by 3 months, which I know would be normal. But since we just said that they're not going to build farm worker housing, rural farm worker housing, and those loans that it references in this option are rural farm worker housing loans.
So
Are they going to change their funding?
I cannot speak to what the funding is going to be and whether or not it can be changed. All I can speak to is that it is definite that there cannot be an extension past that date, which actually, if you add the 6 months and the 3 months, it would not be an extension past 9 months. It's my understanding from the developer that he is very interested in moving forward, but cannot do anything until this particular portion happens. I believe that some of the financiers spoke with your attorney this afternoon to explain what some of the financing process is, and you didn't get to speak to him?
No, I called back and then call back again.
Okay. So I apologize, but I'm not well-versed enough to explain to you exactly which programs and the title of the programs. I do know that I believe the commission was submitted a copy of an approval letter, an award letter, showing that there has been an award of a certain amount of financing for
But
this
it's
particular
tied
project.
to those loans.
So I can't answer that question. I don't know if whether or not what you all just did in the commission changes that any. You may know more about that than myself. But I do know that this grant for this developer to manage this project doesn't go past 9 months from today's date. Correct me if I'm wrong, Madam Attorney. Unless this diocese agrees to do something differently.
Okay. Thank you. Then on page 2, it says on the, looks like the second paragraph, seller represents, blah, blah, blah. Seller in its name has good and merchantable title, that the property is zoned or will be zoned at the sole expense of the seller. So, in other words, we're gonna pay to have this zoned for how they want it.
It's already zoned for that.
No, it's zoned for multifamily?
It's zoned, it's
zoned for housing?
Yeah, you have housing all over the place on that street.
That's not
across
what
the
I
street.
asked. I asked
It's zoned-
specifically if this property is zoned for housing.
It's zoned for housing.
Is that true, city attorney?
Well, I don't know what it's
It's a
zoned for,
core
but
area.
what this language says is that to the extent that it needs to be rezoned for something else, you all will work with that developer and you'll rezone it, but I
No, that's not
believe-
what it says. It says we're gonna pay for it.
Well,
I've never seen where a developer didn't pay to have zoning change.
Yeah, paying for it, I guess, in this case would be waiver of the permit fees and that kind of thing. I
And
mean,
what
but you're
CAP
not-
charges us and what,
That's
all
something
of
that you
that.
all, that's something you all may want to discuss. This was negotiated by, the manager. We did review it, and we did make some tweaks with it, working with the attorney, but that's not one of the things that we addressed.
Okay,
So-
and we're also saying that it is not in a flood zone. Do we know that to be true?
It is in a flood zone, however, our building inspector has provided the correct directions for this developer where there's no additional revisions that have to be made to any new structure that is built on that site. They specifically spoke with our CAP government about that issue.
Okay, but if there is, we're gonna pay for it, correct? According to this?
Going to pay for what? Flood management?
We're gonna pay for something because it says here that the seller represents this, and if we're representing it, that it's not in a flood zone, and it turns out that it is in a flood zone,
It
then
is.
Well,
somebody's gonna
this-
get sued.
This actually says not in wetlands.
No, it says there is an assignable adequate access easement to the property for ingress and egress, power and telephone service, and that it is not in a flood zone.
Madam Commissioner, may I address?
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Madam Attorney. I believe what it would do is that it would allow the developer to get out of the project if he cannot afford to go forward with the project if the if the flood zone issue could not be resolved.
Right.
Right,
I
and
think
isn't
that's all
this
it
what's
does.
holding up all the development in South Bay because of the
I
flood
can't
zone
speak to
maps?
South Bay.
Right? Okay, and then on down, it says that we're representing that no known pollution or other environmental hazards which exist on the property contrary to regulations and/or laws related thereto, or which would inhibit the construction of duplex or multi-family buildings, and there are no endangered species or protected wildlife existing on the property which would restrict use of the property for buyer's intended purpose. Have we done environmentals there, and we know that?
Commissioner Bowling, we did a asbestos test of that facility probably about, 4 or 5 years ago. The county has that
Did
on
we do a
record.
phase 1 or a phase 2 environmental?
That is an environmental study. It is also listed on our Brownsfield for review and assessment as well. And if there are any type of Brownsfield challenges, we do have a commitment from the county for additional resources for cleanup. So far, right now, it's just asbestos inside of the building that we found. And that is an asbestos study that is on file.
Okay, but we did borings, and we know soil samples, and there's nothing contaminating the soil there.
As I said, it's on the assessment for Brownsfield. We don't think there's anything out there outside of the
But
asbestos in the
Brownsfield
building.
is asbestos and mold and stuff like that,
Right,
lead
yeah.
paint, right?
Right.
It's not ground. but this is talking about the ground.
Right.
So how do we know what's there? We're warranting that there's nothing there. Am I wrong?
Once again, Commissioner, with all due respect, it allows the
Them to get out.
developer to not have to go forward, and that's language that's required in the federal HUD regulations, that they can't enter into an agreement otherwise if that's not included.
Okay.
That is my understanding.
It says seller represents that upon demolition, any dirt fill brought to the site will be considered clean and buildable fill and shall allow buyer's engineer to both inspect and propose demolition. But somewhere in here, I read that they're going to take the stuff they tear it down with and use it for fill. So
Tear what down with?
what they tear the building down with, the building concrete, they're going to use it as fill when they put this back together for us.
No, you're mixing the future demolition of a contractor we haven't even hired yet, and that'll never happen. When we demolish this place, they're gonna haul everything off. They're not reusing anything.
That's not what it said in the,
We're not talking
in the
about demolition.
grant. In the contract for the grant, that's not what it said. It said that they were going to use the fill from the demolition to fill in the property. So what I'm asking is, are we or are we not? City Attorney, you wrote this stuff, right?
I reviewed it.
Okay.
For this particular one, I reviewed.
We're not at demolition
yeah,
because we're talking about an agreement, but when we get to demolition and they demolish this hospital, we're not leaving anything on there to be reused. We're clearing the land, period, down
Well,
to
if
about
they-
4 feet.
Right, what are they going to fill it back in with?
Just regular fill that you
But
use
it
around.
says in their contract that
We're
they
not
can use
reusing any
the
fill that
building
we're
for
going to
it.
be removing from this building whatsoever. They have to bring in new fill for the foundation and leveling of
Does
this.
their
of this
contract say that?
If we're going back, are we going back to the other contract, Mr. Mayor?
Yes, ma'am, I'd like to reference that other contract.
You're going to have to give me a moment to find it.
Thank you.
Is that all for me?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor? It does state on page 2 of the interlocal agreement between the City of Pahokee and Solid Waste Authority of Palm Beach County, and I'm assuming that this is what Commissioner Boland is referring to. Number 4, the project, demolition of the City of Pahokee Hospital closed in 1991, demolition of multiple buildings, the large being 70,000 square feet. Demolition will be of all buildings on the property. Once demolition efforts complete, fill will be installed to bring the site back to near original grade, utilizing concrete from demolition as portion of backfill. So a portion of backfill, but I am assuming that that wouldn't include anything that has environmental issues or anything like that. And the area will be seeded and mulched with fencing installed along the property. Once complete, the property can be used for economic development of the city. So it doesn't specifically, it just says a portion of it.
Those two things are not in
Well,
conflict
it
with
says-
each other?
It says a portion of it will be, no, I don't think it is. It will be used for the concrete, which is typical. So if they have blocks of concrete that are usable, I don't think they're going to tear it all down and have to then spend a whole lot of money to raise the grade and height in order to do the fill. It's I think it's common, and I'm no contractor, but I do know that.
Mr. Williams.
Okay.
I'll leave that.
I'm sorry, what? Okay. All right, I'm just, because it says clean and buildable fill, and that's, I just want to make sure we're not hanging ourselves out there. Because the next line down says, buyer may rely upon these representations which shall survive the closing, and buyer has no obligation to investigate.
And if I may, Mr. Mayor?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
I think some of the stuff, just
Do
like.
they not
the-
have any
just-
due diligence or
Just like the,
anything?
if you allow me.
Yes, ma'am.
Just like the young lady who spoke a moment ago, some of the things are actually required by the federal government to be in their contracts. And so what they did, this is a contractor, from my understanding, who's worked a lot during these type of projects and worked with the USDA. And so they've incorporated, according to what they indicated to another attorney who, in my office, Michelle, they've incorporated some of these things in this agreement. And so there were even some things that our office talked with the attorney about, changing, adding, removing, and we were advised that these are some things that they actually are required. Once they do get the contract from USDA, they'll have to incorporate some of these same provisions. And so that was echoed a moment ago by the representative that you heard from the corporation. So I don't think it's intended to be, I mean, surely you can, you know, we've gone through it quite extensively, but and you could continue to do that, obviously, but I think some of the things were intended to be things that would coincide with the contract that they'll eventually have to sign with the USDA.
Okay, and then on page 3, where it talks about necessary easements, do they have an easement down through there with Glades Healthcare on that road? Or is that a part of this, or not
What's the
part of
question?
this, or
What's the question?
Page 3.
where it talks about necessary easements?
What paragraph is it?
Paragraph number 3 on page 3.
If any, it says necessary easements, if any, to the subject lands for access. So to the extent that there are easements, if any, then that applies. But we can't answer your question about that without looking at a map or the actual plan. I mean, there's no way for us to know that.
Okay,
Commissioner Boland.
I only have 2 more.
Okay.
Okay. The obligation to purchase is further contingent, I'm sorry, paragraph 6, upon the buyer funding, and again, it talks about USDA 514, 516, and 538 programs. So are we going to change that? Since those are rural farm worker housing programs. That's what the USDA told me.
Okay, well, I'm not privy to the information that you gained this morning. I would recommend that you all leave it here, or if you do anything with it, add some additional language that might allow more flexibility, but not change anything at this point.
Okay, and then it says, prior to the sale, but after being supplied a survey of the subject property. Are we paying for the survey? Who's paying for the survey? And are we giving them a owner's title policy that says that we didn't own it? We never lived there, we never did anything there, we don't know anything about it? We're not warranting this thing, are we?
I think she wants to speak.
Yes, ma'am.
If I may, Madam Commissioner, the title policy is going to be paid by the buyer. It does say that in that
Yes, ma'am, it
agreement, I
does.
believe. Okay.
Yeah.
With regard to the survey, I don't believe it speaks specifically to that. Customarily, whoever the buyer's going to use or the lender requires the survey, and customarily, it would be a buyer expense.
Okay. Okay, and then, now I just have questions about the
Commissioner Boland, with all due
$1,000.
respect,
Yeah,
we
but,
need to move forward unless your question pertaining to an item critical to your consideration of voting
Yes,
against or
it
for.
does.
How many questions it is?
about 2 more.
You say at the last time we had 2 additional questions, now you're going with 2
Well, it was 2
additional.
on the contract.
Okay. Is
Now I have
as
a question
chair, I
about
just
this
have to move this.
$1,000.
Okay.
I never in my life heard of anybody taking a commercial building and turn it over to somebody for $1,000. Because that's what it says here, $1,000. Am I correct? Is it $1,000, right?
I mean, you could have actually donated the entire property with no money if you wanted to do that. If the city's goal is to try to achieve economic development or housing or
But
whatever.
if we go
that-
through all this
whatever
and
it
they
is,
pull out,
that-
we only get $1,000, right?
That's something that the commission can consider. I think it was negotiated, and that's something the commission can consider. So if you wanted to change that, it's not really something you have to argue with us about. You just tell your
No, ma'am, I'm
colleagues
just
that.
asking.
You just tell your colleagues you'd like to change it.
I think we need more money. I don't think that's enough money to take this building, because you're basically talking about 9 months here, right? 6 and 3, we're talking 9 months. We're tearing the building down. We don't know if they have the financing, the correct financing kind of thing or not, and at the end of it, all we're gonna end up, if they pull out, is $1,000. That's not good business.
Mayor, point of order, I think it's time to make the resolution, either you're for it or you're not. When, you know, we're looking at the sum here, we're talking with the marina, the first 2 years, they're not paying nothing. So, you know, so let's come and we don't know what they pull out, we don't know what their finances are.
Sam, you're out of order,
We
sir.
won't know what their finances are either. So we got to develop here to do some economic development in our city. Let's get on, this is a 29-year-old eyesore in our community that's now it's time to come down. Someone wants to do it. I've been sitting here almost for 5 years now, and we've had every year someone come and backed out the deal. Someone now is really upfront and doing it. Let's vote on it. If you're not for it, you're not for it, but let's make I make a motion,
How do
Mayor,
we know?
that we would accept resolution 2020-08.
But my question to you is, how do we know any
Mayor,
of
there's
that?
a
We never
resolution
even
on
had
the
a
floor.
presentation from these
There's
people.
a motion on the floor. I need a
motion on the
second
floor.
if that's gonna be the consensus to move it forward.
Mr. Mayor, are we gonna have a meeting among us, or we just gonna keep
We
that
have, we
out
now,
first?
okay, I understand what you're saying. Sam McKenzie, you're out of order, sir. You're sitting up front. You've been put out this chamber at least 3 times this year. I asked you to refrain from talking. We have a motion on the floor. Could we get a
We
second?
already have that, sir.
It's already been motioned and second.
Who seconded?
Vice Mayor, Commissioner Everett made the
I
motion.
motioned and it was second, I believe, by Commissioner Murphy.
So then we're still discussion, right?
But the chair, just, y'all do whatever.
I mean, are we really gonna take
We
this
have a-
building and only take
Commissioner Bowman,
$1,000?
we got a
But
motion on the floor in a second.
Yeah, and you called for
I
questions,
haven't
so
called
we're
for
still
questions because you continue to talk.
I'm sorry.
Call for questions.
Okay, I have some.
No, are you calling
Mayor, you
for
already
the
called
vote?
question, they already, she asked her questions, it's time now.
You
to
don't know
call
what
for
my
vote.
questions are. How do you know what I wanna
Hold
ask?
on, who you talking to?
No, I'm talking to
No,
her,
oh,
yeah.
okay, all right.
Mayor, the motion was motioned and it's second, it's time to vote, Mayor. It's
And so
8:30.
I'm not allowed to ask my questions, and I'm not allowed to have any discussion. Is that what you're really saying here?
No, no one is saying that.
Commission, let the chair continue to preside over the meeting.
All right, please.
There's a motion and a second on the floor. Motion by Commissioner Everett, properly second by Vice Mayor Mervin. Call for questions.
Thank you. My question to the commission is that if we do this for $1,000, I think that we should up this. If we're gonna actually do this, then I think we should have them come in, do a presentation, and we should be able to talk to these people before we say, yes, we're gonna give you this building and we're gonna do all this stuff. We've never even met these people. And we're only doing it for $1,000.
Any additional questions? You made your comment,
Yes,
Commissioner
sir.
Bowles. I'm trying to get your point.
No, sir, I
Allow
have
you
no
to make a
additional
comment.
questions. No.
Hearing none, are you ready for a vote? Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Commissioner Everett,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Mervin,
Yes.
Commissioner Boland,
No.
Commissioner Hill,
Yes.
Mayor Bab.
Yes. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Thank you, Commissioners. Resolution 2020 passes by a majority for 1 vote. Okay, we have no public hearings, no proclamations. We did have a presentation added. That group is not here, the Glaze Glover business group is not here. We'll move on. Now we at the mayor's report. I'll try to be very brief. I have a concern, and I did ask the city manager to kind of follow up with the farmers. They're spraying on Bacon Point, Anona Avenue, in that field area. I guess primarily it's a cornfield, 7 days a week. And I asked the city manager to at least try to talk with the farmer, try to get some negotiation, and just see if that's necessary to spray 7 days a week, approximately 4 hours a day. And it's pesticide, it's fertilizer. We have high wind in Pahokee. That stuff is spreading everywhere. And I know it's probably gonna cause some sickness or some illness. So we wanna work with the farmers. We wanna be a partner with them, but we got to think about health issues as our primary concern also. Also the thick black muck that being distributed on the road, especially when it rains during harvest season. One fix, and I'm sharing this so the city manager can even share with the farmer. One quick fix is to have a water tank there before that tractor exit on the road, that they will water off the tires. That would eliminate probably about 95 to 97% of the muck in and on the actual road. It's a safety hazard because it's slick, it's thick, and it could cause an accident. So as a city, I think it's our obligation to kind of work with these farmers. And if we can't work out an agreement, then we need to take further actions along those lines. Also, we have individuals in this community that actually making threats on social media. I have recorded several of them. I have screenshotted several. I will be taking this to the proper authority. We're talking about threats that's actually promoting bodily harm to commissioners. And I would encourage my colleague, each of you, if you feel threatened, to also make and file a report, a police report on the individual. Also, we will be, at least I will be attending, I'm not sure if the city manager is going on this year, a retail conference. Our goal is to try to bring business to Pahokee. There's no way we're gonna be able to do that without going knocking on some doors. I just want to emphasize, the last time we went to a conference, we spoke with about 60 to 65 retailers. I know personally the city manager followed up on the majority of them with a letter and a telephone call to see if they was interested. And sometimes you have to go back again and again and continue to knock on doors, and that's what we're planning on doing. And lastly, I just want to thank the Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office for your quick response when we do have disturbance in the city chamber, that you promptly escort those individuals out. I mean, you should be commended for that. It really helps us to be able to run our meeting in a more efficient way. And a lot of times they stand up. As a mayor, I'm concerned for my colleagues and myself safety. Some of these comments have been posted. If something happened, the first thing that this community would say, someone should have picked that up on Facebook, the way these people are making these derogatory, threatening comments. So for our safety, it's just a blessing that you all are here and assist in that manner. And I personally, as mayor, thank you. I know it's a difficult job to have to remove someone out of here, but that's what we're faced with. And this commission have to look at, along with the city attorney, a way that we can ban individual if they've been removed, say 2 or 3 times within a certain amount of period, for just a certain amount of period, a cooling off period, whether it's 3 months or 6 months, but an individual can't continue to disrupt these meetings and expect to be able to continue to be here when they are certainly a threat to us and others. That concludes my mayor report. Now we'll move to our city manager report.
Thank you, Mayor. For a repeat, we've done some very monumental things tonight. You're going to be demolishing the old City Hall. We're going to be resurfacing streets here in Shive Island, a couple of other streets. You have a close to $1 million renovation that's about to start here in about 2 weeks on your gymnasium that's been closed for a very long time. You have the Anquan Bolden Foundation, the Q81 Foundation that will be installing seating at your new football field. Everyone should be excited in this city about what's about to happen. And we're not done with what we're trying to do to transform this city. Mayor, you're right. You know, we got to continue to knock on doors for the city of Pahokee. And that means doing things that are very abstract when it comes to trying to promote this city. I know I personally have met with investors, be it here, be it in another location, to bring them here to the city of Pahokee. And I have brought recent investors, minority franchise owners to the city of Pahokee who are based out of Atlanta, who have been here within the last 2 weeks, who have looked at the city of Pahokee and see it as a viable place where they can bring some of their franchises. And that took me 3 years. For that to occur. And so that was a continuing meeting, a continuing knocking on the door, and continuing to have the conversation about the city of Pahokee. We know we're not going to fix everything overnight, but these projects that we're doing here are certainly a foundation for the future for the city of Pahokee. So I just want to make that clear, Mayor, Commission, residents, and visitors, because we got a lot out there on social media. We got a lot out there in our newspapers. And if you think, shortly and don't look intently, you would think we're falling off the cliff based on some of these conversations that we've heard, but you're really not. Sometimes you have to take a step back and look at what you've achieved and where you're going. And so the actions that you take here tonight speaks to the truth about where we're going. We can't please everybody. We realize that. But we certainly are trying to move forward and move this city forward in the right direction. So, I appreciate the support from the city commission, the staff that worked on these projects, the contractors that are going to, bless us and come in and work on these projects and clean this city up and make it better. We thank them. The city attorney, she worked overtime on some of these things over the weekend as well. So I thank her. And so we have more success stories to talk about versus the negative in this city, and that's what we need to focus on. And that's where I am, and that's where I'm going to be, regardless of what you say or how it's said or when it's said or how it's advertised. We got to keep moving forward in this city, and I'm going to keep doing that as long as you allow me to do it. So thank you very much.
Thank you, City Manager. City Attorney.
No report, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, ma'am.
Mayor, you will need a agreement for cancellation for March 10th meeting.
I entertain a motion to that effect from the City Commission. We'll be attending a National League of Cities meeting in Washington, D.C. on that particular day.
Mayor, I make a motion that we cancel March 10th commission meeting due that we'll be in Washington for National League of Cities Congressional Conference.
Second.
It has been moved by Vice Mayor Mervin and properly second by Commissioner Hill that we cancel our March 21st meeting due to attending a conference in Washington, D.C.
March 10th.
March 10th. Call for questions. Hearing none, are you ready for a vote? Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Vice Mayor Mervin?
Yes.
Commissioner Hill?
Yes.
Commissioner Boland?
Yes.
Commissioner Everett?
Yes.
Mayor Babb?
Yes, thank you, Madam Clerk. Thank
Mayor,
you, Commissioners.
Mayor, one quick point of order. When it comes to...
Let me finish this.
I'm sorry, sir.
I did.
Motion passed by unanimous vote. City Manager.
I just want to make reference, I want to clarify something, that when we do public records requests and it comes into the city hall, it goes to multiple departments. It doesn't sit in the clerk's office. It goes out to a department for a request. It then comes back to the city clerk, and she redacts any information that needs to be redacted. And we'll flood it with those type of requests right now. There is a backlog there, and we're working on it, consistently as we can. So no one's being ignored. It's just, we have a high rate of requests right now. So I just want to make that clear.
Thank you, sir. Now we move to new business, the Pahokee Housing Authority Board appointment. We have 2 applications here. One actually was highly recommended by the former Pahokee Housing Authority based on this individual background and experience, and that was Mr. not to sway in one anyway, another, that was Mr. Kenny Perkins. Peterson.
Peterkin.
Peterkin?
Peterkin.
This is, okay, Peterson. This appointment is well overdue. It's been open like 6 months now, so they really need a board member
So just
on
one?
board. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
We entertain a motion.
Maybe I make a motion that we pick a Pahokee Housing Authority Board member. So you can go ahead and
Out
pick
of the
one?
2, yes,
Out of the
ma'am.
2? I would say Xavier Wiley.
Do we have another? Okay. Do we have a second?
Oh, for, Xavier Wiley. Yes, I second.
Which one? We on?
For Xavier Wiley.
For which one?
Housing.
Xavier. I
We're on Housing Authority, correct?
Yeah.
That's for housing.
Yeah, it's for housing.
Okay, which one are you recommend, or which one are you making a motion for? I'm sorry, I
I
didn't hear.
said Wiley.
Wiley, okay.
Okay, been properly moved
Either one of them
and
here?
second.
No.
Call for question.
Who's second? I'm sorry.
My question would be, again, the former director did recommend one individual, but whatever the desire of the commission.
Who seconded the motion?
Hearing, in additional questions,
You did, Commissioner?
hearing none, are you ready for a vote? Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Vice Mayor Mervin?
Yes.
Commissioner Hill?
Yes.
Commissioner Boland?
Yes.
Commissioner Everett?
Yes.
Mayor Bab?
Yes.
Mayor, the only follow-up I have with Pahokee Housing Authority, they made some recent changes and appointments, and you were unaware of those changes and appointments. So I think we need to send out a letter to that board, asking them to provide us an update on what those changes are to their personnel. Because I was made aware through an email that they appointed a new executive director. I thought it was someone else as the executive director. Come to find out, he was interim, and they switched and appointed someone else the executive director and made him assistant executive director. And so we were unaware that that was open.
Is it Ingris?
Ingers,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Ingers, the
Mhm.
one now?
Yeah. So I was unaware of that. So I don't know what their reporting status. We might need to look into that at a later date.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Thank you, Commissioners. The appointment of the board member was a unanimous vote. Now we'll move to our future agenda items of the commission, if any. Vice Mayor Mervin, any recommendation for agenda item?
I don't have none.
Commissioner Everett,
None.
Commissioner Boland,
Yes, sir, I'd like to see the IG report put on the agenda and the city manager's contract brought
Let's-
back.
Okay, let's do one first. IG report. Need a second to move that forward.
That's something put on the agenda?
Huh?
To have something put on the agenda?
Yeah. Died for lack of a second. Next one.
The city manager's contract?
I'm not bringing that back to the
Gonna finish
commission,
it up?
Mayor, Commission, I'm not bringing that back to the commission right now. We are less than 45 days for my next annual review. I think it's more sufficient that we just move to the next annual review and we bring that up at a later date.
Okay.
I'm not anxious to have that conversation at this point because it's, you know, you know the story behind it. you know.
Okay, now, just for clarification, your salary that we discussed, that's also on hold?
Yep.
Okay, the
I'm fine with
entire
that.
package is on
Yeah.
hold. In additional request?
No.
Okay, I have a request, the quarterly financial report, the verbal one from the city finance director / city manager.
Right. We'll bring that back at the next meeting.
I'm asking for it to be on the agenda, right?
Right.
Just, don't get a second, we'll move on and you
For
can
the
bring it
quarterly
in.
financial report?
Right,
Second.
a verbal.
Can we get her here to answer the questions?
Yeah, that's why we want her included.
Okay.
Okay. Call for questions on that. Hearing none. Ready for a vote? Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Mayor Bab?
Yes.
Commissioner Everett?
Yes.
Commissioner Boland?
Yes?
Commissioner Hill?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Mervin?
Yes.
Okay. And a marina update, one way or another, we have to talk about it at some point. Did we get a second or die for like a second? Okay. Die for like a second.
It'll probably be an update. Either way, we'll have one.
Okay.
And
Huh?
I thought that was already a part of our discussion.
What did we discuss
No,
on the
It's not
marina?
coming up before us already?
No, it's coming up, it's gonna be an update either way at the next meeting.
Okay, and
Yeah.
also, now, just out of fairness and frankness, we did state that it was to be a part of, old business, of the agenda for, periodic updates.
And my last request is to add the IG report on our next agenda. I think it's important that we at least finalize and discuss it, share what recommendation that we're actually agreeing upon and just move this forward, not to discuss it. I don't know if that's,
Mr. Mayor, if I-
Second.
Mr. Mayor, we did that already, and it died for lack of a second.
He's
And
allowed to
then
make
you-
any motion he
I'm still
wants.
talking, and when we're looking at, when we're talking about the IG report, one of the issues or items that was on there, whether we have selective amnesia was already discussed.
what was that?
Of December 2017, the whole $125,000 issue with Techno Marine, even prior to me being on this commission, was already discussed. And some of the dissenters regarding the 125 was very forgiving about that issue that we encountered with the city. That 125 was discussed. Here recently, it was discussed when we had the news channel in our community, when it was discussed about the 125 along with the bonuses that workers received. Back in December 2017, it was discussed because you brought it along with
That's two
the
different-
former attorney.
that's-
No, the 125 was discussed, Mr. Mayor, in 2017. And when I got elected in 2018, you discussed it along with former attorney Brandenburg, and you all had a workshop on record retention and all of that. It was discussed. And it's just a narrative that we keep on recycling, going over and over, talking about the same thing and attracting unnecessary attention to our city. It has been discussed, unless we don't remember. And we have great memories when it comes to certain things.
Commissioner
It was
Everett,
discussed.
you don't feel that we have 2 IG reports in less than a year, and that those ought to be discussed in public with the commission and with the city manager?
The contents of that report they have already been discussed.
Not before we got the findings. Not since we got the findings.
They were already discussed. But I mean,
Then you
I'm
must
just
be
one
having
person, I'm
discussions
just giving
without
my
me.
opinion. The findings seem to be the same to me. Seem to have been the same. The city manager, we know now, and the city manager then, we know now. It was $150,000 paid to Techno Marine. We know that.
We have a train of thought. One commissioner asked for a report, didn't get a second, asked for the same report.
And I second it.
But as chair, aren't you the one who entertains?
How come
The
his,
motion?
mine had to have a first and a second, how come his doesn't?
You know what, I'm gonna remove this, request at this time, at this particular time, on that. I'll remove my request for that.
And just for the record, Mr. Mayor, if you wanted to make a motion, you could. You just set aside the gavel and you make your motion. And you-
Okay. The proper procedure from the city attorney, if the chair wishes to make a motion, I didn't know I had to remove the request an agenda item as a mayor, but I'll do that in the future. I'll remove myself as chair and then request whatever
Well,
agenda item.
Not for the agenda item, I was saying to make the, well, yeah, I guess in that case.
Right, that's what.
That wasn't contemplated. Normally, if you wanted to make a motion, you would, but
Right.
but in the future, you might just so there's not that issue coming up again, you might just, and I'm not talking about just this issue, for any issue, if you're making the motion,
Okay.
you might set aside the gavel and then pick it back up again after you
We
get
can,
your
we can
second.
bring that up at a later,
Yes, sir.
later date.
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Hill, any agenda items you would like to have added?
No.
Okay. Now we'll move to the comments concerning the good order of the city commission. And I'll start with Commissioner Everett.
No, sir.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Bowling.
Yes, I'd like to say thank you to everybody for coming out this evening. As you know, I have a lot of questions. I will continue to have a lot of questions, always, because I believe that that's our job up here, is to question and get the answers and then have a vote. I also believe that we should have, as I made the motion, discuss that IG report. I don't think that it's good for this city to sit here and pretend that we don't have any reports. And that doesn't help any of us. Mr. Perez, congratulations on your contract. I'm sure you'll do a fine job, and I hope we can be friends. Just because I voted no doesn't mean we shouldn't be friends, okay? It's a small town, right? Okay, thank you, good night.
Vice Member, Commissioner Hill.
I'd like to also thank everyone for coming out tonight. And Commissioner Bolden, continue to ask your questions, and trust me, it gets, sometimes you may think it gets frustrating, but just continue, you'll be okay. It'll work out.
Thank you, everybody. Meeting adjourned.